The first thing I did when I started making this video is open Twitter. Since this is Twitter we're talking about, I got depressed after 10 minutes of looking through the trending page, and now I'm exactly where I was, but I wasted 10 minutes of my life and I feel like death. This is the exact reason I did this challenge. But wait, the story doesn't start right here. It starts a month ago. I was facing an issue that I'm sure many people out there can relate to. School ended and I really badly wanted to make YouTube videos weekly during the summer, because it's something that interests me and I think it would be fun to do. But there was a huge issue. I was addicted to YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, whatever, you name it. I would watch hours and hours a day of different forms of media, which just completely sucked up my life. I watched dozens of hours of YouTube alone each week, which honestly isn't very great for being productive if you ask me. So I impulsively deleted YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Reddit from my phone. I never even used Reddit, but I definitely didn't want an addiction starting for that. Ugh. I knew that not using YouTube would be the biggest challenge of all of them because I definitely watch more YouTube than anything else, but I decided to delete the other apps too. After deleting the apps, I instantly regretted it because I have a 16GB phone and I knew that I'd never be able to download them again. So I had to kiss them goodbye for good. As soon as I truly realized there was no going back, I knew this was real. I foresaw the pain and suffering I would have to experience through the next month to get through this pain of a challenge. A challenge worse than drug relapse, worse than losing a loved one, worse than torture, way worse than war, and most importantly, worse than death itself. But I knew with will and determination I could get through this. I deleted the apps on June 16th, so I wouldn't be able to watch YouTube until July 16th. I also made a rule so that I could listen to music using the YouTube website as long as I'm doing something on top of it, like making a YouTube video or gaming. I also made sure that I wouldn't spend all my time playing games instead of watching YouTube, but I knew that wouldn't be such an issue because I haven't really been addicted to any new games lately, so yeah. Part of the reason I did this challenge in the first place was because I wanted to play more games, so as long as I was making weekly videos, gaming wasn't going to be an issue. The first day of the challenge actually wasn't all that bad. Usually in these types of things, the first day isn't bad at all, because you have the determination of the first day to carry you through it, so it's usually not that hard. Usually the hardest part is the few days following the first day, because you kind of don't care as much as the first day, so you just kind of have to occupy yourself with other things to get through it. The worst part of the day in this challenge is the morning. I was so used to waking up, opening YouTube, and watching a few hours of YouTube for some instant gratification. But with this challenge, this is how it goes. Let's watch me some YouTube on my So, I would just have to get up and do something else instead, like working on my next YouTube video. After the first few days, things got slightly better. I started realizing that this challenge might not be all that bad. I learned that I have a lot of things to do instead of watching YouTube, so keeping my mind occupied wasn't actually that difficult. I could play video games, go outside, pet my cat, play an instrument, make videos, of course, eat food, do stuff with friends, anything. I was able to do lots of things that I wouldn't normally have the time to do. I practiced guitar a lot more, which was one of my goals for this summer, and I was working on learning lots of new music for it. I think the most important thing I found about the challenge so far was I was able to keep up on my challenge of uploading weekly. Honestly, if I didn't do this 30 days without YouTube challenge, I don't think I would be able to start up this weekly upload schedule. Of course, the weekly challenge isn't over yet, but so far I've been able to post on every Tuesday because of the challenge. Honestly, the rest of the challenge was mostly the same difficulty from there on out. As I said, once you figure out how to keep yourself occupied, it really isn't that bad at all. But there definitely were some tough moments in the challenge. Whenever I was pulling up some music to have on in the background while doing something else, I would see a video in my recommended section that I really wanted to watch. Then all you can do is sit there and cringe as you try to ignore the video. Usually I just put the video in the watch later playlist so I could watch it later, but it still sucked to not be able to watch it right then. Every time I watched YouTube, it felt dirty. Sometimes I would watch YouTube on other people's phones when they showed me a video, and I felt like that should be allowed, but it still felt wrong. I grew a YouTube phobia because every time I started watching a video of any kind, I was like, is this wrong? Should I be doing this? Also, something very painful was when my friends sent me videos. Sorry, Elias and Saltorb. I would watch them, but then I felt wrong doing it. In fact, on the last day of the challenge, my friend Saltorb sent me a 25-minute video. I have a confession to make. I watched the whole thing. Honestly, at that point, that's definitely cheating, even though I was doing something else in the background while watching it. But at that point, I was practically already done with the challenge, so I let it slide. Throughout the whole thing, I probably cheated a few times, which is actually way better than I expected I'd do. Usually when I cheated, it was only a few seconds, except for that last time, of course. In the end, the challenge actually wasn't that bad to me. I actually recommend this challenge to anybody who feels like they want to do something more productive and not sit around all day. Although the challenge was pretty effective, a lot of times I would still stay up till 4 AM, but instead I'd be playing games until then or something, instead of watching YouTube. I think in those regards, the challenge didn't really help much, but during the day, I was much more productive. Here's a list of things I did in the last month instead of watching YouTube. I made 4 YouTube videos, revisiting Flipnote Studio 8 years later, Is Nostalgia Bad, and the video on the Dragon's Lair trilogy. I also made an extremely vulgar Flipnote. I made part of a non-vulgar Flipnote. I made this cool island in Minecraft, and I also practiced this song on guitar. Now that the challenge is over, I hope that I watch YouTube less often, and I hope that I only watch it when I actually have something to watch and not when I'm bored and I have nothing to do. I'd much rather do something productive with my time than watching YouTube. Let's be honest though, I'm gonna go back to the way I was. I've already gone on Twitter and YouTube like 10 times since I started making this video. Okay, thank you all for watching this video. I'll see you next week. Goodbye.